Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the West Virginia Postgame Live Show. I'm Greg Crist, along with Frank Fears. You can see there beside me. And Frank, gut-wrenching day for the Mountaineers. I tell you what, you got a 10-point lead with under 5 minutes to go, and things looking good, and then the wheels come off. So a tough afternoon for the Mountaineers.
Well, Greg, it would have been a great college football game, and really, if you're not rooting for either West Virginia or Pitt, it was a great college football game.
It was a good game.
But when you're on the losing side, particularly I always say it's not the final score, but how you got there. And this is very, very tough, very, very difficult. And I can't imagine what the commute out of Pittsburgh is going to be back home for all those Mountaineer fans who were there. But we'll soldier on, as they say, and we have a great guest with us tonight.
Absolutely.
A headliner who just was one of the hardest hitting defenders ever in the history of WVU. And he's out in Los Angeles, right on the ocean tonight. In fact, I just see we lost the connection there. But Tim AGEE is with us tonight. And as soon as we see that his internet connection there he is. We're going to bring you right in now, Tim.
All right. Nice
to meet you.
All the way from the Pacific Coast. Beautiful, awesome. Sunny and blue here.
Yeah.
Awesome. And Tim, I know I was a big fan watching back in the day. I know you guys were noted as being one of the hardest hitting secondaries in the country at that time and in the history of West Virginia. And but you after you got out of school, WVU, you headed west. And before we go any further, I know people kind of like to hear a little bit about that, what you've been into for the last 25, 30 years.
Yeah, time flies for sure. But it was tough leaving Morgantown, but I did jump on a plane and actually jumped in a car and headed out to LA. I don't know if you guys remember lineman Mike Durrett from West Virginia. He was out here playing for LA in the USFL. And then played for the 49ers briefly. I moved in with him for a couple months, and the weather was like this every day. I said, well, I kind of like it. Back in Morgantown in December, we turn on the TV and see UCLA playing with the cheerleaders in the skirts, and it's 75 degrees out. And I finally made it out here. So I spent 15, 16 years in the acting world. I did about 100 commercials. I did 12 movies, 24 TV shows, and then had fun doing that, and just decided to move on and got into real estate. And well, let me show you. I'm sitting next door to what I'm doing now, building some houses right here, a block from. I don't know if you can see a good view of that, but so that's what's keeping me busy now. But sunny and warm every day.
Yeah, that's awesome. We appreciate you joining us tonight. We'll look at the game that we just got finished watching. We're going to look back on it, talk a little bit about what happened and how it all unfolded. And Frank, we talked about our keys to the game, and I said it was our offensive and defensive lines. I thought would be crucial. I felt like both our offensive and defensive lines played pretty well, and I guess that wasn't a key because they played well. And I just think we still got some serious problems in that secondary that we got to get ironed out. And I don't know if it's communication. I don't think it's ability. I think it's more communication than anything, technique and that kind of stuff. But we still got some serious problems back there. And we compounded a lot of things today by making mistakes with penalties. We had a slew of those today. Of course, both sides did. Just one of those games where every play you expected to see a flag. And we had some really crucial ones that hurt us. I mentioned before we came on the air, I think we had a 2nd and 20. We had a 2nd and 29. We had penalties on both of those that advanced the ball and they scored. And then I think they converted a 1st and 30. And, we just gave up some big stuff at bad times, and penalties had a lot to do with that.
Yeah, I agree. Your take on the game, Tim?
Pardon me?
Yeah, your take on the game.
Yeah, I agree on the initial comment on the offensive line, defensive line were keys. They did a good job, actually. I give the offensive line big credit, and the defensive line was scrappy and did a good job. Then you move on to the penalties. I also agree. Very, very undisciplined at times, targeting. The long 3rd and 20, 3rd and 29, 2nd and 29, unacceptable to allow them to get a first down on that kind of thing. And I'm a little biased on this one, but the magic rule, the golden rule, is deep is the deepest, and they don't live by that. So it's just disappointing. It's easier said than done, but you can't let people get past you, and you can't be so excited about jumping in and making a pick six instead of protecting your end zone and keeping everybody in front of you. That's more important.
Yeah, let me throw up the keys to the game that we talked about on our Wednesday show. Mickey Plumlee is not here. WVU alum, played offensive line. But Greg and I are here, and Mickey said defensive secondary. He thought it would come down to Garrett Green. He picked WVU 30-26, and then changed it, I think, to 35-28. But he picked WVU. Greg, pass rush, offensive line, and running game. And, we stopped the Pitt running game. We were really concerned about that running back. He may have been hurt in the second half. We didn't see him much, but I was concerned about him, Reed, and also about Holstein. I mean, this guy was a blue chipper recruited by Alabama. Left, Pitt picked him up. They needed a quarterback. I was pleased with the wide receiver, tight end play, particularly the tight end play early. Could have been better, but I was concerned about Holstein, and they did to us what they did to Cincinnati last week. In fact, they came back 21 points to beat Cincinnati, but they have that ability. We had the game won and let it go, and that's just absolutely well, it's heart-wrenching to put it mildly.
Yeah, our defense in the second half, I think they had 75 yards going into the last 3.5 minutes of the game, and scored twice in the last 3.5 minutes, and we held them to 75 yards up until that point. So I think we did a pretty good job of containing. He's a good quarterback, and but our secondary just really struggled to keep track of people. And again, I don't know if it's communications. I don't know what it is, technique. I'm not sure. I never played defensive back. I don't know all there is to know about it, but it just seems to be like there's some technique problems as well as communication problems back there. And that was key. I thought I thought West Virginia moved the ball easily. I thought we ran the ball well. Green had a okay game. Finally started using his legs a little bit there in the second half. And, we had some tough breaks and again, tough penalties. That's not just the penalties, but when those penalties occurred was what was bad.
You look at Joey Foster's comments up here, guys. The defensive secondary is really bad. One of the things that came out in the analysis of the first two games was, the defensive secondary, the defensive line, the linebackers, they all work in concert. And because we weren't getting much of a rush on the quarterback, because the linebackers sometimes were out of position, it really exposed the secondary. Today it was a lot better because the rush was unbelievable. Pitt had twice as many sacks going into this game than we did, and it looked like they had traded uniforms. They really gave Holstein a lot of trouble. He's elusive. We talked about that on Wednesday, and he was elusive. Special teams are ridiculous. So let's talk about that. I'm not sure what Joey Foster means by that. That the one guy, the block punt, that the guy came in completely, unblocked, and so, and so, yeah, I don't get the Garrett Green. I don't know. What do you think, Tim? He just doesn't look like the same quarterback we saw toward the end of last year.
Yeah, it's tough. They started out trying to run the ball and did a pretty good job, and they were controlling the offensive line, which is key to, almost every game is controlling the offense and the defensive line and establishing the physicality of the game. I thought we did a good job of that, and then that allows the quarterback a whole lot of avenues to go when you can run the ball, when you are controlling the offensive line. So I thought Garrett did a pretty good job. Obviously could have done better. He did pick up his feet a little better in this game. At the end, obviously he had some tough throws, but pressured. But Donaldson looked great. He's a stud at 238 pounds, tough to bring down. Again, the offensive line did a good job. The two tight ends, when they go double tight ends, did good job blocking. And I can't think of 87's name right now, but when he's in motion.
Cole Taylor.
Yeah, Taylor. He's good. He's good at kicking out. He's good at finding the man to block. He kicked out defensive tackle and went upfield and got a linebacker and on one of Donaldson's longer runs. So there's some good things to take away from the game. But, back to your last comment about the defensive backs. I hate to beat a dead horse, but you don't have to be the greatest athlete. You don't have to be the smartest. Just keep everybody in front of you. They catch it in front, and you got 10 of your brothers to go knock the ball out or tackle him before he scores. So, if he gets behind, there's nothing you can do.
Yeah. Let's bring in your friend Mike Dunlap, our friend Mike Dunlap, and good to see you, Mike.
Good to see you guys.
Yeah, you got blood on the side of your forehead, Mike, from hitting your head against the wall after that game. There's just blood streaming everywhere.
I tell you, it's I did think they improved. What did they not make some great catches in this game?
Yeah,
both teams. Garrett Green, I thought, played better. Again, it goes back to what I was talking about before. When you play a team and you get the strain, and by the way, I talked to Coach Nealon today about the backyard brawl, and that was one of the things he brought up. When you play a team such as Albany, he said, your kids don't practice as hard as when you play Pitt or Penn State. So that's an issue. He brought up the fact that the backyard brawl at Pitt had the highest payroll in college football back when they wasn't supposed to be. So it was a special game for him. Tim, he said to tell you hi. He also said to tell you he loved you and Cool Hand Luke, man. So did I. And, but they had a lot of strain. The offensive linemen were working hard, I thought. Garnuti or whatever his name is after the game mentioned the referees.
Yeah,
I don't see that. I didn't see that. Maybe it's just my cataracts, but I did think they made some calls that probably shouldn't have been made both ways. I want to say this: the punter. Again, we're not criticizing. Punter made a great deal on the fake. I think he was looking for that again when he got that punt block.
He took about three or four steps before he tried to get it.
Right. I think he was looking to run the ball again, and then it blew up. You think so, Tim? I mean,
no, not really.
Man.
I think he enjoyed the limelight there for getting the first down.
Yeah.
But one of the blockers, they double teamed one guy and he let the other guy completely through. So I think I don't like that style of punting anyway. They tiptoe and wait and wait and wait and decide when to punt and let the rush come in. I don't agree with that, but that's another long story. But yeah, I don't think you were banging your head on. I think your veins just burst from.
Well, what they had to lead? 10-point lead with 4 minutes left or something like that.
Yeah.
And
450. Yeah.
About 5.
They were in slow down mode. They were running their I guess you would call it the 4-minute defensive offense. That one thing out looking back, of course, as we are, the last series when they ended up with 3rd and 7, they run the ball twice up the middle. I think I would have passed on one of those downs.
Well, and I'll tell you something else. That was one of the things I was going to mention that particular series. When we got to 3rd and 7, I'm sitting here saying to my dog, "We got to stop the blitz. They're coming. They're coming. They're coming." I think everybody in the country knew they were coming on a blitz, and it's almost like it surprised us. And we took a sack right there, And I'm thinking, surely we knew that blitz was coming and could have got the ball out quick. Quick slant or something to give us a chance to get a first down. But they acted like it just kind of surprised them that they blitzed right there. And they've been blitzing the whole game, and they were coming in when they got about it.
Yeah, I was going to say Stieglitz has a good point there if you could read it on the screen, because what we're seeing over and over again is the same situation where the quarterback's getting away and running upfield. And, today we had a mobile quarterback. Penn State doesn't have a mobile quarterback, and Drew Aller, and he looked pretty much the same. So, I think what the theme, obviously, from those who are watching, and I did put the link into the comments, so you're welcome to join us in the studio. Is coaching. And when you think about the game, even though the first half to me was mystifying, they didn't run Garrett Green hardly at all. I was surprised at that because I thought it was there. But again, I'm watching and I'm not a coach. But then I agree with Mike at the end. We've seen this before over and over again. A team gets out ahead, thinks they have the game won. There's not that much time left, and the opposition then has to scramble, and then the team gets the team that's leading gets the ball back, and then goes conservative, which basically hands the opportunity to the team trying to catch up. And if they have good personnel and good coaching, odds are we've seen it 100 times. They're going to come, and they're going to win the game at the buzzer, and that's what happened. This is going to be a tough game for West Virginia to rebound from because the credibility was thin, and people are thinking, wait a minute now, okay, we won 4 of the last 5 games last year, won a bowl game. This team doesn't look like that, and the play calling doesn't look like that. When you think of the play calling down the stretch, with the exception of the Oklahoma game last year.
Yeah, it's not going to be easy. I think 4 out of the next 5 games, they play ranked teams, and if I'm not mistaken, so they got a tough schedule coming up. But I agree with you. It's tough. It's tough to decide how to proceed. Get conservative, or actually on the third down, they did go for a pass when he did get a sack. So they didn't run it 3 plays in a row and then punt. So it's a tough one to call, but we can sit here and criticize all day long, but they were scrappy. I give them credit for that. I give Pitt credit. The freshman quarterback was very, very good. Their line play wasn't as bad as I thought, although I think we dominated physically. We could talk about this one a long, long time, but backyard brawl didn't let us down, that's for sure.
Yeah, no, the answer to, I agree, the Stieglitz, does anyone know the number associated with the buyout? We looked at that number some time ago, and it actually goes down significantly, and I think that was adjusted downward along with Neil Brown's salary. It's in the millions of dollars. I would say 10 million or more, but we'd have to actually look that up. And here's Joey says it's 11 million. Put it up here. $11 million at the end of the season, and that sounds right.
Who would you guys like to see come in?
Tim AGEE.
Now you're talking, boy. Let's do it.
Hey Tim, I got a couple questions for you.
Shoot.
And if you know Tim like I know, you know he's going to give an honest answer. Have you ever carried a fat man in a wheelchair down the street?
Not yet.
You did me in Charleston. Remember my wheel broke?
You can't be telling secrets like that, man.
The other one is, Tim, this is a serious question.
Yeah.
So you get the quarterback from Pitt. He obviously didn't start the scrambling as much until the later parts of the game.
Yeah.
Can you, as a defense, suddenly interject a spy in that situation?
Definitely.
And who would it be?
Definitely. That's a great point. So I give him credit because he didn't scramble early, right? He didn't run early, and he did use his legs at the end of the game. So the fact that we held him from not running didn't bring up the need for a spy. But once you see a little success, the answer to your question is yes. I love Trotter. I think as young as he is, he's going to be like his dad or his uncle or his
dad.
Family members. He's a stud. He'd be a good spy. Obviously, somebody a little faster, a little smaller that can run. Need another defensive back. He might sneak in there as a spy. And a spy is not just to sit there and watch the quarterback. Obviously, they had success on the trail patterns across the middle where the linebackers got a little too short or didn't get underneath it. So a spy can work many ways, and that's a good one to bring up. So the short answer is yes. A spy would have been great at the end of the game for multiple reasons, to stop the quarterback running and to take away the underneath in the middle. So helping those D-backs out with a spy would have been a good call. That's a good point you bring up.
But what position
I'm not sure.
Tim, would it have been the linebacker or the free safety, or who would it have been?
It was the linebacker. We had a spy late in the game. It was the linebacker. I saw him several times just hold in the middle there until he took off and then try to cut him off. And I believe it was Trotter who was the spy.
Yeah.
Maybe Latham a couple of times. But we did have a spy there as well. That's 2 or 3 series they ran.
Different ways to play spy, but you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. Guys, I think this is the bottom line. I'm looking at my handheld with the stats. The bottom line isn't going to change. West Virginia had that game won with all the issues we've talked about and should have won. Look at these stats. First downs, pretty much even. 22 against 24. Pitt had 2 more. Third down efficiency, they were 1 for 7. Fourth down efficiency, they were 0 for 1. 1 for 8 on third and fourth down. We were 5 for 18. We win that. Total yards, we had over 400 yards, and we had more yards than they did. And they came back at the end to get 380. They had more passing yards, obviously, at the end, but we outrushed them 2 yards to 1. They only had 29 rushing attempts. They had under 3 yards a carry. We were at 5. They had 12 penalties for 112 yards. That last drive where they scored the touchdown on a pass, Tim and I were talking about this before. That was 1st and 30 because they had 2 holding penalties. But we had 2 turnovers. But look at this possession. West Virginia, 36 minutes and 17. Pitt, 23-43. If you look at these figures, that to me is the most important thing. Even with all the issues that we've talked about, they had the game won, and they should have won, and they didn't. Yeah. That's the bottom line.
It felt like we were dominating the game. I mean, I felt like our offensive line was having its way, and we were moving the ball. And then we'd hiccup every now and then, but I felt like we dominated the game. It just seemed like we should have been ahead by a lot more than what we were, and we definitely should have won the game. Yeah, I think so too. I think that's what makes it so tough to take. Is the fact that we definitely should have won.
Greg, I wanted to add something too. I forgot about my conversation with Coach Neal. Coach Neal says the backyard brawl no longer exists. Before it was a rivalry game, 75 miles away apart, and guys like Tim Hayes, you played against them 4 times. Now you guys that don't even remember the last time they played. It's only the backyard brawl to the fans. And so that part of that has been taken away. And he wanted me to say that. And I'm getting old and crazy, so I forget some things. But don't laugh, Tim. You old and crazy too, buddy.
I'm laughing because I want to say join the club.
At least I've never went on an African safari with a loincloth and a spear. That's another question. But Coach is right. Used to it was a huge rivalry, and we talked about the program. He took over the program. And Tim was there. They scratched and clawed till they finally beat Pitt. Yeah. And they scratched and clawed till they finally beat Penn State. And it's just not there anymore.
Yeah.
It's a different ball game for sure. I want to respond to one of your viewers' comments on the what would we be talking now if we had won the game, and I think it would be a similar conversation, except we would say that I think we would be a little more apt to lean that the fact that we dominated on offense and the defensive lines, and that enabled the control of the game, that enabled Green not to have to run so much until the second half, or until he started to get on it. But the physicality was there. It hasn't been in some of the past years. I like that. That's a good thing to build on. They got some studs up front, which again makes Green's job, Donaldson's job look good. Makes the receivers become open. Your time of possession is a huge thing, because truthfully, I saw Pitt's defense. They were sucking air as good as they did at the end. They were tired. They were beat down. And when you have an offensive line which controlling and a big dude like Donaldson running over them, that pays a toll on a long game like that. So I give him credit.
Yeah.
Good point, Tim.
Yep. Hey, guys, let me just say something. Well, I was going to say, let's have some ground rules here. I've dropped the link, so when we have a guest in, let's bring him in and have him express himself. Talk is Pitt is a real friend of the network, and isn't going to come on to just say, "Hey, there he is." Let's bring him on. If he can come in, and we'll do that. Yeah, we've got there he is. There he is.
Sorry, I was having microphone issues.
Yeah. Let me.
We can see your shirt fine. You didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
By the way, it's spelled wrong though.
The background noise you're hearing is Tim is right by the ocean, and we're getting a little bit of wind there. So that's why I muted it. We'll try it again here. But congratulations, Talk is Pitt. Give us your take.
I said there's 2 ways Pitt has to win this game. They have to limit both C.J. Donaldson and Jaheim White to under 100 yards. They did that. And they also had to win the turnover battle. They did that. Now, granted, Pitt failed to convert on a couple 4th downs, but at the same time, that's what we had to do. We had to stop Jaheim White and C.J. Donaldson. Now, in doing so, what they ended up doing was allowing your wide receivers, and I'm not trying to knock you guys whatsoever, that allowed your wide receivers to have decent days. I mean, because let's face it, neither team's wide receiver core is really that good. I don't think ours is that good. I'm not 100% sold on West Virginia's wide receiver core. But what really cost West Virginia this game, it's not the phantom holding calls or the bad calls that a lot of fans are complaining about. Because, look, we got penalized more than you guys did by a wide margin. It's not even close.
That's right.
I lost my track of thought because I'm not going to lie. I seriously thought for about a good 10 minutes that we were going to lose this game. I was prepared to have to eat my my crap. I don't want to curse on this channel and get people in trouble. Because you know how YouTube is nowadays. You can't say certain things, and even that kind of word will probably get you in trouble some sort of way. But
you were talking about why you thought West Virginia lost the game.
Oh yes, Neil Brown once again screwed you guys. Neil Brown 100% is the reason why you lost this game. Because let's face it, with 3 minutes left, you guys still were up by 4. All right. Why did you run the ball all 3 times? Why? Why didn't you throw it? Because we couldn't cover. We couldn't.
Yeah.
I think we ran it twice.
Knew.
We ran it twice and then got sacked on 3rd down, right?
That is right. Yeah, that is right. That was the only sack Pitt had that game, and it was the most crucial one.
Yeah, so I agree. I agree a little bit with the comments on Neil Brown, and not so much on being conservative, because I would have run it once or twice for the clock purposes, and then he did on 3rd and 7. He did go for a pass, even though he got sacked. So I can't, hold him to being too conservative on that one. But on other occasions, other calls, yeah, I disagree with some of the calls. It's, actually, I think it goes a little deeper than just during the game. I think it goes with discipline. I think he's got some talent there. He's got some good talent.
Mm-hmm.
He's got some good physical players. But he's got some undisciplined athletes. All across the board, from offensive holding, from late hits, from letting people run by you as a defensive back. Again, biased here, but there's just unacceptable things that are happening that should be taught. It should be drilled into these players' heads. That's unacceptable. It's too big of a game now.
I am actually surprised, and I can't believe I'm saying this. I'm surprised you guys were able to shut down our run game the way you did. I thought we would have a decent day running, at least 150 rushing yards, not 150 by one player. I just meant all together. We didn't even get anywhere near that. So you guys did one hell of a job shutting down our run defense. However, in comes the self-proclaimed Baba Yaga, Eli Holstein, because he loves John Wick. He absolutely adores Keanu Reeves. That's his favorite actor. John Wick movies are his favorite series of movies.
Just as you come back, Pitt, the leading rusher for Pittsburgh was Eli Holstein with 59 yards. Reed, who was the star of the last 2 games, had 26 yards on 11 carries, 2.4 average. And Mumfield, who had a great game against Cincinnati, their wide receiver, had 76. Kenny Johnson hurt us. He had 5 catches for 79 yards, along of 42, but Holstein was their leading rusher. So that just reinforces what Pitt's saying.
And that had to be in the 3rd and 4th quarter, wasn't it, Frank?
Most of it in the 4th. Yeah, most of it in the 4th.
Yeah, and that's 3 games in a row that Eli Holstein has put up 300 yards or more in the air.
Yeah, and I think a lot
Frank,
of that
you want to
too,
get
Frank. Yeah, I was going to say, I think a lot of that too. You mentioned the time of possession. Sometimes that's not necessarily a good thing because what that may mean is the other side scoring quickly. And they had a couple really short, quick drives and put points on the board. And, it came in the air mostly. But our defensive line played pretty well. I thought they kept pressure on Holstein. He got out there a couple times in the fourth quarter and ran for big yards. But that time of possession thing can be a little bit deceiving, I think, in certain cases. And I think it is in this case, too, because they scored quick on several of their drives.
Yeah. Especially in the fourth quarter when there was like, a minute left, maybe 2 minutes left. And Eli Holstein, you guys tried everything to bring him down during those last 2 minutes. It just was not happening. I don't think I've ever seen as mobile quarterback for Pitt as Eli Holstein. And I mean, he's more mobile than Kenny Pickett. It's not even close. Kenny Pickett would have been sacked those games. As mobile as Kenny Pickett is, it's flat out, that's how it would have been. And Eli Holstein, when he was breaking off for that 20-yard run, and you guys tried to pull him down not only by the back of the jersey, which that wasn't horse collar, because if I'm not mistaken, you are allowed to pull by the jersey. If you're, I think, what is it? You're not allowed to pull from the top of the jersey, but you're allowed to pull below the nameplate. Is that how it is?
Yeah, I would say you got to have your hand inside, I think, at the top.
Yeah, so and you guys tried to do that. It wasn't coming down. You tried to pull, somebody pulled on his face mask, and he still didn't go down. And Eli Holstein is 100% what won Pitt this game. Because outside of that, we didn't play very well.
I agree. I thought he played a nice game.
Frank, there was just a comment that came up about a guy saying politics and college football was rigged. Ask me and Tim if it's rigged. Out there busting your head 2-a-days, and trust me, bro, it is not rigged.
It's not. I mean, if people are going to sit there and complain about the referees, I'll go back and say what I said when I first came in here. If it was rigged the way you think it was, then how come we were penalized more than you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think any of us think that's the reason why we lost or that it was rigged. I don't think. I mean, there were questionable calls both ways, and there was a ton of flags.
100%.
Yep. I don't think we lost because of that. Absolutely not.
I don't think I've seen a more horrible game officiating. That is hands down the worst game I have ever seen when it comes to the referees, because like I thought a couple of our holding calls weren't actually holds. Like the one on number 70, I didn't think that was a hold. But the referees, for whatever reason, they were calling everything and everything they possibly could. It didn't matter if you were Pitt or West Virginia, or even a sideline for that matter.
Yeah. You know, I let me put this back up again, and I want to turn to Tim. Having played the game, is it HR Pick and Stuff says he lives in Vegas now, and UNLV is 3-0, and they beat Kansas. And if when you think about the game next Saturday, KU coming in to play West Virginia, two teams that are really searching. I don't know how many of you saw that game the other night that was played in a soccer stadium when KU lost to UNLV. But they were picked to contend for the Big 12 title, and they're 1-2, and they were lucky to win the one game. How do you bounce back, Tim, from a game like this?
Woo, that's a tough one. I mean, they had to bounce back from the first game, right? And thank goodness we didn't have a tough game the second game. But going back to the comment on the games being rigged, I wish they were rigged. All five of us could move out to Las Vegas and own the whole thing. But it's a very difficult mentally to come back. You got to have leaders on the team. You have to have the proper coaching. That's all the way down. We can be as hard as we want on Coach Brown, but there's DCs, OCs, position coaches that need to let him know, hey, you're 1-2, you got slapped around, and you need to let it go, and you need to focus on the next game. It's not easy to do, but you got to have somebody to cut it off and let them know that you got a long season. We got a big game coming up next week.
Yeah. What I didn't understand is why you guys, for the last half of the fourth quarter, I think Neil Brown got a little bit too conservative, or Jordan Leslie, sorry, got a little bit too conservative on play calling, because you guys went from a 4-3 defense to a 3-4. That's really, to be honest, is really when your problem started. That was the worst mistake you possibly could have made, was going from a 4-3 to a 3-4 halfway through the fourth. We couldn't do anything against your 4-3 defense. But once you guys switched, it got bad. I don't know if you guys noticed that you guys switched defenses towards the end of the game.
Yep, sure did. Yeah. Yeah, and I guess their thinking was, increase the pass coverage, but that's when Holstein got loose several times and got big yardage scrambling, and we couldn't fill the lanes to get him out of there. So, and one thing about, bouncing back from this, I think, what these guys need to realize is, and Timothy said it, we still have our Big East schedule. We haven't started that yet, and that's crucial. We need to focus on this Big 12, and I think I said the Big East. Focus on this Big 12 schedule now that we're into it, and try to win the Big 12. I think if we can stay healthy, I think we can compete for the Big 12 championship.
I still have you guys competing for the Big 12. I mean, because this game right here, it could make or break your season, and it probably will in some sort of fashion. But I have to admit, you guys are hella talented across all sides of the ball. Offensive line, defensive line. You're better at pass coverage. Well, I got to take that back. You're you're better at run defense than I originally thought, because Albany moved the ball last week. Albany moved the ball on the ground and through the air. It's just they were penalized a lot on a lot of their run plays, which brought it back. And they could have easily have had 150 to 200 yard rushing against West Virginia, but the penalty really hurt Albany. And the way you guys came out and limited us, I give you guys credit. Your defensive line is legit. Your offensive line is legit. Now, we weren't able to sack Garrett Green as much as I had hoped for, but we were able to get pressure in Garrett Green's face all night. He's a lot better of a quarterback than I thought he was. I have to give you guys credit. I'm not going to, as much as I want to, I'm not going to sit here and completely troll you guys and trash talk you guys as much as I really, really want to. I can't, because I feel that you guys handed us this game.
Yeah, I think you did.
I have a question for you, sir.
Yes.
Do you know the words to Sweet Caroline?
I might be the one Pitt fan that hates that song.
I couldn't resist, man. I'm sorry.
Oh, I mean, when I do my videos and everything, my intro is eat, breathe, and shit everything Pitt.
Hey, Caucus Pitt, any final comments before we bid you adieu?
West Virginia, this is coming from a Pitt fan who, believe it or not, hates Penn State way more than you guys. Way more. It's not over. The season's not over. Don't get your heads down in the dump. Please do better, because the worse you get, this win doesn't really seem good for us. We need you guys to do better. And it's not like you're not talented. You need a better defensive scheme. You do. You need a better defensive scheme. And I also think you guys need to stop rotating players as much, because whenever you took TJ Jackson out of the game for a breather, that's when we were really able to move the ball. TJ Jackson, as small as he is, because he's undersized for playing the position that he is. I don't even think he breaks 290. I'd have to look. But, I mean, 3 sacks he had, 5 tackles for losses. I mean, he was the worst nightmare. He was, and I can't believe I'm going to say this, he was the Aaron Donald to your defense.
Yeah, he was. He was. Was Sean Martin in the game today?
Yeah, he had a
he
sack.
played.
Yeah, he had a sack. I believe he had a sack.
Yeah.
Our Aaron Donald got hurt a couple plays. He was out. I'm not sure they.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, I'm not sure they're rotating him on purpose. He got a little.
Yeah.
There, but
because I had to pee like a Kentucky racehorse from drinking alcohol. I don't really drink, and every time I do, I'm in and out of the bathroom.
Mike, thanks for hooking me up with these guys. I enjoyed spending time with you. Always love talking Mountaineer football, and hope to see you guys again.
Hey, Tim,
I hope to see you guys again, too.
I want to tell stories about you when you leave.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Tim.
All good ones. Thank you.
Yes, sir. You know, guys, the story I was wanting to tell about Tim was, do you remember Marcus Dupree?
Oh, yeah.
That tailback in Oklahoma, 240 pounds, 4'4" guy. Tim AGEE put his helmet in his ear hole on his first play in college and sat him down for several series. Tim weighed 175 pounds.
Tim AGEE was a hit man.
Yes, sir, buddy.
My gosh, he hit like crazy back there. He was undersized, a little bit slower than most people back there. But he was always on the ball, and he was always landing on somebody.
No fear, man. No fear.
Yeah, he would hit.
Yeah, the answer to HR's question is no. West Virginia does not play Utah this year.
No. And I think them and Arizona are picked to and/or Arizona are picked to win in the Big 12. A lot of comments, about coaches and schemes and that sort of thing. And I get all that. I understand all that. But, we got a season to finish out. We got to stay behind these guys. I disagree with a lot of things that are going on myself. And as I watch the games, I complain about stuff constantly. Even did on this show before we started talking about not being able to pick up that blitz there at the end. But one other thing I want to point out, we had 5 sacks today, and probably should have had 10 if we would have got a hold of him and tackled him. So you can't really blame our defensive line. I don't think. I thought the defensive line played very, very well.
Big effort.
Best effort of the year for sure. I just still think we got problems back there in the secondary. Again, I don't know if it's schematic. I don't know if it's technique. Seems like there's plenty of ability back there, but we're just not getting the job done. And I thought with the pressure that our defensive line put on today, that would have helped them a lot. And really didn't seem to, in the long run. But I think we got to stick with them. They're our team, so we got to root for them.
Right.
Yeah, the thing that I think we need to consider, and it relates to this coaching changes. We all know there have been huge changes in college football, and they're connected. They're not isolated, particularly the business side. And so there's so much emphasis these days placed on manufacturing hype. So many staff members now produce videos, produce articles, etc., to build up your team, and it all translates into money. The better your team does, the more people following your team, the better numbers it gets when the team is televised, the better personality your coach has, which made one of the reasons that Saban was just a master with the press. It all translates, and one of the things that we're now challenged with is just the reality of college football. We were, trust the process. We were moving up. Last year was a breakthrough after starting 4-3, beating Pitt. As for part of the 4-3, a hiccup with that second loss to Houston, not a very good team, but then finishing 9-4 and winning a bowl game. And this year was pivotal because you want to build on what you hope to be that foundation. Possibility of beating Penn State. Definitely think you can go up to Pittsburgh and beat Pitt. And now we're 1-2. And so, yeah, we haven't played a Big 12 game yet. But the bottom line is there's been a stumbling of that. And so the noise is legitimate. It's going to continue. You got to deliver. That's just basically any executive position, especially these days, you have to deliver. And in college football, there are a lot of ways in which you can measure delivering, but one that's incontrovertible, indisputable is wins. And so this one really, really hurts. And I think the leadership's going to have to come through. Kansas doesn't want to come in and lose 3 in a row, and we don't want to go 1-3 with a week off before we go to Oklahoma State. So next week is really going to be a critical game for these two teams, and I think especially for West Virginia. I mean, this is I don't want to call it a crisis, but
It's getting there.
Let's be honest. This is not turning out the way people thought, and we haven't built yet on last season. So the question is, who are we at this point? Is that overstated, Greg? Did I overstate that? What would you?
No. I think you're spot on. I think with the expectations coming into the season, I don't think any fan you would have asked would have said we'll be 1-2 at this point and fighting for our lives. And I think that you look at the Big 12 schedule starting, and I know it's going to be tough, but these guys got to get their minds right and get prepared for this Big 12 schedule, because that's what's the most important. I know we all want to beat Pitt, we all want to beat Penn State, but it's kind of tough when you look at our schedule too, and you got Penn State on that opening game. That really is, to me, problematic, because you're behind the 8 ball right off the bat, and you lose that game. Well, it puts a little bit more pressure on you not to lose another one, at least early in the season, or you may be looking at your season going up in flames. And I think that's kind of what's happened to us here. And we're looking at this and saying, oh no, if we can't beat these guys, what are we going to do at Oklahoma State? What are we going to do at Arizona? What are we going to do at Texas Tech? So you got to look at that schedule and think, man, there's some tough games on there for us, but at the same time, there's also a lot of winnable games, and some of the tough games are winnable as well. So, we just got to keep plowing forward. I know it's tough from a mental standpoint, emotional standpoint, but I think, still think that Neil Brown can get it straightened out, and we can get on the right path. So hopefully that's right. But yeah, you are correct. I think this thing is spiraling quickly, and we got to get it stopped.
Yeah, and Mike, one of you brought it up earlier. When I was at Michigan State, and Mark D'Antonio was head coach, he brought in Pat Narduzzi to be his defensive coordinator, and it was a really good partnership because D'Antonio listened to him. And we all know that Narduzzi is outspoken, and we all need people on our staffs who are willing to speak truth to power, and what they speak is truth. And Narduzzi was one hell of a defensive coordinator, so good that a major donor actually endowed his position. They actually endowed his defensive coordinator position at Michigan State, the last couple of years he was there, was fully funded by a donor.
Wow.
But the issue with Narduzzi, if you brought it up, if you saw the post game, he said we beat the Mountaineers and we beat the refs. And actually, even though he worked for Narduzzi for D'Antonio, when Pitt played Michigan State in a bowl game a couple of years ago, he went after Michigan State and basically called them overrated. And so Pat Narduzzi is good, but only when his microphone is not muted, because he just can't manage himself. And so I thought that was just foolish that he said that, but that's who he is. And Neil Brown, on the other hand, is a very respectable guy who does a great job when the mic's on, but he's under pressure like he's never been before.
Yep.
Yeah, you know what? You talk about him talking after the game like that. What happened to that? What happened to the classy coaches that would, and even in the locker room, never belittle your opponent? Never. And that is, I guess, gone by the way, too. It was always, hey, they played hard. They got a great team. And now to listen to some of this stuff, I hate it.
Yep. Yeah, we appreciate what HR is saying there. We're all rooting for the Mountaineers. We want the best for them, and everybody. We're all great fans and equally good people. The ones we know, and we appreciate your being here. And it's just this is tough because West Virginia should have won that game. I mean, they took it to Pitt. Pitt looked down. They couldn't make fourth down plays. We busted through the line, basically tackled the runner. They were clueless. And that great one-handed catch, we have the game won. And then 5 minutes later, we've lost. And it's just, you can't let that happen. It just can't happen. And when it does, the consequences are enormous.
And Frank, any coach in America would take a 10-point lead with 5 minutes left. Am I right, Greg?
Oh, yeah. I would say so, yep.
But here's something to think about, too. They went into their slowdown mode.
Yes.
And it cost them at the end because it reverted back
to
them not having enough time. Of course, that's hindsight. But along with that, you could say if they made one more first down, they win the game. But I thought about that when he was doing it. You see it all the time, like you said about things. Too much time on the clock.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And,
I think I'm sure I thought it, and I'm sure most West Virginia fans did think it. We were up 10 and they had the ball with 5 minutes to go. I'm thinking too much time.
That is the same thing.
Yeah, I thought that immediately. And when they scored so quickly, I was like, here we go. We got to get first down, and we never get it on these.
We've seen it before. And the other thing about this is that, think about it. When the chips were down, it was Holstein's legs that got them started. And we know he's mobile. But when the chips were down for us, not down, but when we had to hold the lead, Green didn't run. That we ran twice, and he was passing and tackled for a loss. And again, I'm not a coach, but the fact of the matter is, those are things where you ask, why didn't when you think about the games last year, where Garrett Green won the game for us by his play, why didn't you basically said we're gonna live or we're gonna die with Garrett Green? Let's see what he can do, and they didn't do it. And so. Exactly what Tim is saying. You can't run the ball straight up the middle 10 times in a row. It's just, and I know we made a lot of good runs up the middle, but, it's, and again, we run a fine line here because we don't want to be, I always say there's a difference between critiquing and criticizing. And what we're trying to do is really stay on the side of critiquing, which means making comments based on analysis, rather than making observations based on emotions. That's what Narduzzi did in his post-game show, comments. That's That's criticizing based on emotions versus critiquing. Go back and look at the film and then say, we got screwed by the refs if you want to.
Yeah.
But no, he's
Yeah.
going to say that. Yeah. So.
Yeah, you know, and you're talking about Garrett Green. Yeah, I don't know if that's again coaching him not to run as much for fear of injury or whatever it is, but he is just not using his legs nearly as much as he did last year. And you know, last year it was a run pass option. This year it's a pass run option, and you know he's waiting until the pocket collapses on him before he goes anywhere. If you had a criticism of him last year, it might have been that he jumped out of the pocket too quick and took off. But at the same time, he was successful doing that. And it just seems like that's just, you know, left his mindset. He's not nearly as aggressive with his legs. And I don't know why. But that would surely open up that offense a lot if he would start doing some of that and maybe even get some design stuff, which they used to run a lot of design plays with him. But they just don't seem to be doing it now. So I think that would really help the offense, you know, the whole scheme, if you had that element, you know, to worry about. And right now, you don't have to worry about it because he's not doing it.
But you know, Greg,
you know, Mike, we talked
everybody in America see Tua get lit up this week.
Oh yeah, I know.
And you have to. I got to think, even as fearless as guys are, they got to have that in their mind.
Yep.
But
yeah, that could be it. Yeah, and you know, the coaches may have told him, you know, you short rope here. You're not. Don't take off running every time. You know.
Sorry, Frank. Sorry.
Yeah, they've kind of coached him into that, I think.
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt you, Frank. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, and again, Timothy, I put this back up. Timothy's not. That's not a criticism. That's a critique, and that's completely justifiable. One of the things we talked about on Wednesday, we thought we would see Nico Marchiol and Garrett Green in the game together. We didn't. And what mystifies me, both Mike and Greg, is you would think, for example, with a mobile quarterback like that you'd have a play that you would run, particularly in a big game like this, where maybe a Clement would be in motion, would get the ball, and then Green would sneak down the field, and you'd throw the ball to the quarterback. I mean,
Right.
there's not we're not seeing the sort of the creative plays that we're having. We're having Joe Pendry, who may be the best offensive mind in college football in the last 30, 40 years, on our show on Wednesday. And it's one of the things that we need to ask him. If you had this personnel, how creative would you get when you have a Garrett Green, and you've got a runner up the middle in Donaldson and a speedster in White that you can really play around with. I don't know.
And you know what you don't see anymore is you don't see the naked bootleg, right?
Yeah.
The 3rd-and-1 plays, 4th-and-1 plays, 3 backs up the middle, and quarterback have it on his thigh and go around. I thought about that today. You just don't see that anymore.
Yeah. You know, Joey's saying here, trying to make Garrett Green like Tom Brady, and he has improved his throwing, but and I'm trying to think of he was at the end. It wasn't so good. Let me see if I'll get his percentage, because he threw a lot of incompletions at the end. Several should have been intercepted before the final one was.
But you know, again, Frank, I think that's, you know, partly the lack of him running. You know, he's not real tall, and he has a hard time seeing over linemen, and it makes it hard for him to pass the ball out of the pocket like that. And if he's out running, he's scampering around, he can get out and give himself some room and some open vision to see downfield. And without running, and he's not getting that. He's standing in the pocket. A lot of his passes get deflected or knocked down. A lot of them are overthrown, I think, because he's trying to get over the lineman.
Yeah. Let me see if I can. His QBR rating for the game was 71. His was 71, and Holstein's was. How about this? Let me see. Why can't I find it here? This game. Well, they do the RTG. Holstein's RTG for this game was 187, which was the highest of the year. Let me see what we've got for Garrett Green's RTG for this game. 120. 120, and much higher for the for other games. So I don't know. This is
What guy that compares to the passing coefficient for the NFL? Wonder how that compares to that.
Good question. I don't know.
I can't think of the name, but off the top of my head, and I should know it. Passer rating.
Yeah.
Passer rating.
Yeah. 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 He was 16 for 30 today, and that's pretty much close to what he does. Pretty much close to what he does. 210 yards, 16 for 30, 2 interceptions, 2 touchdowns, a 7-yard average. And he had 49 yards on the ground. So basically a 250-yard day with a 23-yard longest. Yeah. Yeah.
Frank, does it have the halftime stats for those guys, Frank?
I do. I kept it. It doesn't have it on the ESPN, but at halftime, first quarter was 136 yards for Pitt, 88 for West Virginia. At halftime, Pitt had 222 yards, and West Virginia had 194.
How many passing yards for the QB in the
Okay.
at halftime?
Let me see. At halftime, I don't have that. In the first half, almost all of Pitt's yardage in the first quarter was passing. 120 of the 136 yards gained in the first quarter was passing. And so yeah.
I was just interested to see how much, because I thought he had a lot of yards the last 17 minutes or so.
Yeah, he did. And now I was keeping my figures. I had Pitt for -2 in the third quarter, total yards.
Wow.
That's the domination. And that's the thing that is the most troubling to me for this, that West Virginia came out and I figured, hey, this is going to be a TCU redo. We're going to do just like we did to TCU. They tried to punch us in the mouth. We punched them twice, even after players went out. We went down to the Dallas-Fort Worth area, went down to Fort Worth, and we won. And when I saw those play in the third, I said, this is a repeat of that. Look at that, -2 yards. And then all of a sudden, and we continue that in the fourth, the defense, which no one thought that defensive line would do what it did. And all of a sudden, that great catch, and then it's gone in 5 minutes. My guess is that's going to reverberate this week, big time. And so the question is
go ahead.
I was going to say, the question is it better to lose the game 26-0 where you never had a chance, or won the game and then lose it? I mean, I don't know. The question also is this story as much about Pitt roaring back as they did against Cincinnati, or is it really more about West Virginia going conservative and all of a sudden taking their foot off the pedal off the metal?
That's the 1,000-year question, isn't it, Greg?
Yep.
Coaches.
Yep. What their thought process was, yeah.
And it
did look like we got really conservative.
Yeah, to me, if like I say, if they get a first down, we don't have this conversation.
That's right.
Because now they move us a little bit farther, maybe get another one, have to kick it. Now they're back on their 10. So again, just like Coach Nealon says, they knew that he called it the damned old draw play. He said they knew it was coming, but they still couldn't stop it. We don't have one of those plays, and we need one.
Yep.
Yeah.
And last year it seemed like we'd run a quarterback draw, or something to that effect to was kind of our go-to play, the quarterback draw or little screens. We went clear away from that and didn't do any of that late in the game. And it seemed like we got really conservative and just, what happens when you do that with time on the clock and you could sense it, you could sense it coming. So I think that's what makes it so disappointing. Like Frank said, we had it won and we let it slip away, and that's harder to overcome and just get your ass kicked by 30. I mean, what ifs, is what they're going to be saying from here on out. But again, got that Big 12 schedule coming up. You got to get focused on that and move ahead. You can't dwell on these games. Always heard Saban used to say it: you never get too high when you win, you never get too low when you lose.
That's right. Yeah. You experienced that as a coach and Mike as a player. I see our numbers have dropped significantly in terms of number of people who are watching and the comments. A couple more. Let me get these up here. A couple more comments, and then we're going to put one for Joey. Joe, I would say, Joey, hope you're feeling better. Thank you for the positive comments, and we'll see you hopefully next week on the network. Shane is going to have his show Monday night at 9, and we encourage you to tune in to Shane, who does a great job. Hopefully Joey will be able to join him for that. And also wanted to say that as I mentioned earlier, Greg and I will have Joe Pendry, former West Virginia offensive coordinator who ended his career on Nick Saban's last staff. He was on the staff at Alabama with Nick, who's a close friend, and he'll be with us next week, and plenty to talk about in terms of what West Virginia should be thinking about offensively as we go up against. And a comment that came up earlier is a good one, and that is what we talk about Garrett Green. I have no idea what's going on with Daniels at KU. He does not seem like the same quarterback that he was last year. I don't know if he's injured or what's happening there. And so thank you, Timothy. We appreciate your loyalty and hope you're feeling better too. And
hey, Frank, I think I was going to ask you, when you talk about our numbers starting to drop like that, I said, is that a nice way of saying that people are tired of listening to us blow smoke here? Hey, and one other thing I want to mention too, Frank, I mentioned to you this after Wednesday show was September 11th, and we forgot to mention, we planned on mentioning Chris Gray, former Mountaineer who was killed in the terrorist attacks on September 11th. And
That's right.
Wanted to get that out to let Mountaineer fans know we were thinking about him, and we failed to do that on Wednesday night, so we wanted to take a second to do it here tonight. So we'll get that. Before we sign off.
Thank you for doing that. No, actually, we're going on 1 hour and 15 minutes, and I think what happens is people do hop around to various post-game shows, but also we promise about an hour or so. We appreciate Tim AGEE with us. Sorry about that. I didn't know Tim was going to be outside, and so we got an awful lot of we couldn't control it technologically. I tried, but it was great that he came on because he's out in Los Angeles doing great stuff out there. And if you ever want to binge watch Tim in X-Files. He was a darn good actor, and so as well as Mike, this, if you go back and watch WVU films, when you think of guys like Boom, Freddie Smalls, and you think guys like Darryl Talley as being hard hitters, boy, I'll tell you, Tim AGEE, and you think about all those great guys that just would level you. My God, he was a great defensive back, and he came to WVU as a punter.
Yeah, he sure did.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I thought about that when he was talking about the putter. I didn't think about it till afterwards, but when he was talking about the technique, I forgot that Tim was a punter.
Yeah, Tim was a punter too. We should have brought that up. Final comments, Mike?
Well, I think the teams at the crossroads. I think if I'm Neil Brown, that I have to, as they used to say about the Buffalo Bills, circle the wagons. I've got to see get away from the pretty plays if you have to, and give me something that gets me the old 3 yards in a cloud of dust, 4 yards hopefully, and still throw the ball downfield some, but get some solid offense. Continue to, Bobby Bowden used to run 6 plays, but he ran them out of different formations.
Yep.
Get them plays that you can run, and the players don't have to think. When I was at West Virginia, the playbook was about 205 pages thick, and we only ran 10 or 12 plays. So that was what I'd do. I'd narrow my offense. I'd get the backs, CJ and them guys. Hey, look, spend some time in the training room this week because you will need it. And I'd put a fullback in. That's what I'd do. I'd put a fullback in.
Yeah, interesting.
So that's my opinion.
Good. Wanted to mention West Taylor's name in that too, of the hard hitters under the Nealon. A whole bunch of guys that were just phenomenal defensive players. Greg, final comments?
Well, I'm gonna go in there and open up a bottle of Get Over This, and look forward to next week, and get this thing turned and headed in the right direction. Put this one behind us. It's all you can do. You got to play the next one, and that's a good thing about it. You got another game next week, so we'll just look forward to that one. Hope we can do a little bit better. And Wednesday night, I look forward to Wednesday night. That'll be fun as well. We hope everybody will tune in for that. Our Mountaineer Locker Room Then and Now show. So that's about it for me.
Well, thanks everybody for watching, both live and this is always in the video vault, and will be as soon as we sign off. And heavy hearts tonight from various locations: Los Angeles, where Tim was, and southeastern West Virginia, where Greg is, and you were over in western West Virginia, right, Mike?
Right on the Ohio River. And,
that's what I thought.
Before we go, Fred, can I add something to that?
Sure.
John Pennington, the head coach at West Virginia State, lost a player this week.
Yes.
Murdered.
Yeah.
And so thoughts and prayers with John and his wife. And if you know John, he's a great guy.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to mention that.
And the irony, as I understand it, is that he was shot in Charleston, and they're getting ready to play. I don't know if they played today, but the player who was killed had just transferred from the team the state was going to be playing this week.
Wow.
Did they play that game? Do you know, guys?
I do not know. I think they did.
Yep. I believe they did.
I'm just going by statements his wife made. That she was, we're going to play this team. So that's what I'm going by.
Yeah, that's just tragic. I'll tell you.
Yep.
Happens to
Very
us.
sad. Very sad. Yep, sure does.
Okay, guys, thank you so much.
All right,
and
Frank.
thanks to Tim AGEE. We'll see you on Wednesday and also next Saturday after the KU game.
Yep. Good night, everybody.
Appreciate you having me, buddy.
Yep.
Always.